Pure base? Why are there two of you? Tempered glass.
Yep, the tempered glass mid-tower category just grew by one with the release of the $99 Pure Base 600 TG edition. Let's build on it, see how prepared Be Quiet is for the case wars of 2017 right after this. Every day, treat yourself with the best quality sound to complement any lifestyle. Your ears deserve a Sennheiser Momentum product. Move freely with the gorgeous Momentum in-ears, or style it up with the Momentum in-ear wireless with the leather neckband and up to 10 hours battery life, or fully zone out with active noise cancelling Momentum wireless available in over-ear or on-ear pairs. Enjoy your music with Sennheiser. Move with the Momentum. Full details in the description below. So I gotta say, tempered glass is like the new RGB, but how you implement this element is more important than simply having it. The glass is tinted with this neutral color, it's like an ND filter, and it is fully transparent, meaning the perimeter is not darker or blacked out like on other glass panels, and this means that you can see the frame underneath. This may not be a big problem for you, but holding the glass by the edges and this prime area needs constant cleaning because of that, which is especially annoying on the inside of the case. As for the mount itself, we have a standard 4-thumb screw method with rubber dampers, and the glass panel is backwards compatible with non-TG edition case.
And that is because the Pure Base 600 used the same pegs as what we saw on the Dark Base 900, allowing you to actually remove these little pegs that hold the glass because they are simply screwed into the frame. And so this is the non-TG edition of the Pure Base 600 case, and so here we can see the same holes inside the frame, and that means that you could potentially if you buy the glass separately with these pegs, you could install them and turn your non-TG edition case into a TG edition case. It's a very good thing that the frames are backwards compatible. However, Be Quiet currently does not sell the glass separately, so this backwards compatibility is a little bit useless as of this release.
Design-wise, it's kind of bland and traditional. This is one of the few cases that still has a 5.25-inch drive bay that are removable, but glass brings it kind of back to life, and there is consistency with Be Quiet's other cases. So the front panel has a brushed plastic look with the color outlines on the side ventilation, also available in gray or black. Because of the price though, it is competing right against the S340 Elite and has some tough competition versus the P400 STG, but appearance-wise, let us know which one you like the most. The I/O is clean with a 3-speed fan controller for 3 fans. It is SATA powered, so that's nice. And Be Quiet includes some of the best stock fans, like this 140mm Pure Wings 2 fan and the 120mm exhaust one that are incredibly quiet and have good airflow. The front can support dual 120 and 140mm fans by default, and triple 120mm fans if the 5.25-inch drive bay is removed. But the problem here is the very restricted front panel that has this mesh for catching the dust, but the openings are so limited, you're guaranteed to choke your fans. And I'll be doing a full cooling comparison versus other mid-towers in this price range, so stay tuned for that video. All of the panels are covered with noise dampening material with a really thick piece on the rear side panel with captive thumb screws. But as I said in my case trends video, it would be so good for companies that release these silent edition cases with this noise dampening material applied on certain panels to give us statistics or some information on what frequencies and, let's say, noise levels these panels help to reduce. That way you as a consumer have the value added thinking you're going into the silent case, and you know exactly what type of benefits you're receiving versus a non-silent enclosure that does not have this noise dampening material applied, like if you agree. But also, if we have any sound engineers in the audience, please let us know how this would benefit noise isolation or insulation, or how the sound would bounce with such a thin profile of a foam. Yeah, that'll be great to know. Thank you. The top fan area spans the entire case for triple 120 or dual 140mm fans, and I would not install a top radiator just because clearance is very tight and mounting holes are not really offset enough to accommodate for a comfortable fit. But I really like what they did with the top cover, letting you raise it for exhausting the air without needing a dust filter, or close it completely if you're only doing horizontal airflow and wanting a quieter system. I keep saying traditional in this review because because the interior is very much 2015 to me. You know, there's no power supply shroud, there are the drive cages at the front, it's kind of the standard, you know, from back in the day, and that dual 5.25-inch drive bay, but it is still modular and quite open, so the metal drive cages have spacing between them to allow airflow to pass between and through them, and you can reposition them to any of the 5 slots, and most importantly, you do not need to remove them for installation of a standard front radiator. And these metal drive cages are SSD ready for 2 drives at the same time, plus there are dual SSD caddies behind the motherboard.
I do like their approach to color customization using rubber grommets. So here's the gray compared to the orange, and there's also the black variant, just giving you a little bit more color customization on the inside, aside from those ventilation strips on the exterior. But the rubber grommets themselves are really soft and kind of low quality, because when you're passing the cable through them, the rubber grommet will simply pop out with that cable, and you'll have to put it back into the frame once you're finished with cable management. Very annoying, something that I haven't had to deal with in recent while with many of the builds, so yeah, this needs to be fixed.
Now obviously one advantage of a power supply shroud is to hide the cable mess, and it does improve the cleanliness of your build, so we'll see how Be Quiet responds with their own version of hiding this bottom chamber in a future case. But here's my finished system. You can either look at it from this perspective of this outdated kind of frame, you know, glass half empty, or it might suit your taste of having nothing to hide. It is more challenging, of course, because absolutely everything is on display with the glass panel, but you know what, that can be said for all tempered glass cases. My main point of criticism is the layout of the rubber grommets, since they're completely covered by my standard ATX motherboard, and you're left to think creatively on how to route a 24-pin cable and all your SATA cables from different cutouts. You know, there's not even enough space underneath the motherboard for any cable unless you pre-route before inserting the power supply.
But here is a standard ATX motherboard as well, but it's not as wide. So those cable cutouts accommodate the 24-pin and the SATA area very well. So perhaps they thought about, you know, this is, you know, perfectly fine for a slightly slimmer ATX motherboard, but you know, this shouldn't happen for a 2017 release. Especially because the frame is fairly long to accommodate the hard drives and the radiator there, so that, you know, this is perfectly fine, but yeah, it's just unfortunate that the cable cutouts and this whole area just didn't take into account standard ATX motherboards like this.
And taking a look at the back, cable management is traditional. You can make it flat with a bit of work, and you know, we have cable tie points in all the needed areas around the sides, around the rubber grommets, but kind of ironic as the cable cutouts themselves are not in the right places. So the main thing is how to clean all of this, plus the interior, when the case is kind of working against you. And in the current state of competition, a case needs to handle your default configuration with an ATX motherboard, a clean way to organize and hide the power supply area with appropriate channels for routing. None of these things apply here unless you go with a more of an entry-level build and a slimmer motherboard, and perhaps going full air cooling also. And taking all that into account, Be Quiet released the Pure Base 600 with entry level in mind, despite having a TG edition that is competing in the same price bubble as other high-end mid-towers. We'll see how that plays out in our full comparison of the battle of the mid-towers, so make sure to subscribe for that. Let us know what you think of this case. I'm Dmitry with Canucks. Thanks so much for watching. Keep calm and be quiet.